What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Leanne. I'm getting blissed out. Here we have Shedding into Soul Culture podcast number 40. And I want to share an amazing alignment tool for transformation and a new friend, Debra. Last name again?
Debra Wilder.
Yes. And so, friends, I have recently been doing some upgrading in the new year with some studies, and I came across her Solo Tantra course that's on Udemy. And I had the wonderful opportunity myself, after using my 8-week blueprint, to really see a mirror. And like the mirror is on many, many levels. And so I'm really excited to get to know her more. I'm excited to hear more about her story and also share that with you. Now, if we have any interruptions with our internet, because it looks like a couple moments there, we're just getting interrupted, just if anything pauses, it comes through. Sometimes that happens with the world of Wi-Fi. Be patient and we'll just continue through it. But this is what yoga teaches us. It teaches us patience. Tantra teaches how we have the power of presence, to work in the moment, to be with the inner beauties. And we'll get into Debra first introducing you as a whole and as a teacher and your background and how you came to Tantra.
Yes, my name is Debra, and I'm so glad you reached out through my Udemy course, Solo Tantra Practices for the Individual. And then you sent me that email. I was really happy to hear from a student and fellow teacher. I've had that course up since 2019. I think I filmed a lot of it in 2018. And then I have my YouTube channel as well, Debra Wilder Meditations, which is all about Tantra for the individual. And that's my business as well, solotantra.com. So I'm about first learning Tantra for your own self, and then you can learn how to incorporate a partner in. So that's really what I try to educate people that is how we should begin, and it is also actually possible.
So good. And, friends and audience, I've been working with Tantra for many years and solo Tantra. And I think the thing that comes up for all of our minds, or even just the mind itself, is the mind. And so while teaching, and working with modalities that lead us into no mind, what I really appreciate about solo Tantra is just allowing yourself to fully embrace your aloneness and not see it as loneliness. And in this course, I just want to reflect, for anybody that's out there on Udemy, I highly recommend checking it out. Because the breakdown, it mirrored so much of what I do with yoga, and how yoga is such a foundational part of first understanding the inner world, the inner kingdom, and then how to work with energy, how to work with breath, and then the expansion with where Debra has put highlights on tantric breathing and tantric ways of utilizing other methods like yoga postures and body, and how to embody yourself. So, we were talking prior to this, and um, we were talking about things that we both learned on our journey, and a couple beautiful points came up with the Shiva and Shakti and Tantra, and the awareness of the role that it plays with Tantra. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your understanding about that, and how do these principles manifest in our spiritual practice and daily lives?
So I like to keep it simple for people, thinking of Shiva and Shakti not just as gods and goddesses, but simply stillness and creativity, awareness and flow. And having both of those for ourselves, whatever gender we are, making sure we have a little bit of every sort of practice so that we feel balanced. So that can be a still meditation, or meditating upon the sight of a Shiva picture on our altar. And Shakti, active movement, can be a moving, flowing Shakti dance or some flowing Tantra yoga. So that's how I like to tell people so that they can get some simple practices and not feel like they'll have to spend hours a day dedicating and practicing.
So this is like
So
a regular lifestyle, like if everybody that's going to work and having that balance of seeing this miraculous energy within us, of how to have a healthy solo tantra connection to yourself with energy of Shiva Shakti.
yes. So yeah, some people could only stick to the active movement, dancing, and making dance a meditation for them, but they wouldn't have that stillness. Yeah, maybe they're meditating, shutting their brain off, but they don't have that stillness or a more Shiva type practice. So either way, someone can be balanced if they're not having both of them. So it's important we always take a step back and look at uh, whether we're having that, where we're feeling misaligned, using that yogi awareness in our body and mind spirit.
And other than being a tantric teacher, you're also a yoga teacher too, right?
Yes, I came to Tantra from first being a yoga teacher, going to India 2008, 2009, and that's how I eventually wound into the path of Tantra, being invited by a teacher to learn Tantra. And that was, yeah, it's been over 14 years at least.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I
For
really
me, it was more of the spiritual practices, meditative, feeling the energy in my body and my nadis. So it didn't right away come through the adult practices, the partner things that so many people think about, the tantric ones. That has been a plus to add into my life, but I didn't come through that. And I always have people to first, as you say, have your practices alone, be comfortable being alone. I get many private clients that contact me that their number one concern is I don't have a tantra partner to practice with. I don't want to practice alone. Can you teach me how to meet someone to begin these um, practices, someone that already knows tantra? So then it's teaching, well, you have to first be able to do this on your own to even attract someone that already knows tantra, or find a teacher. But we have to be comfortable in that aloneness, and also to know we're never alone. We're connecting with the divine divinity, and first we must connect with divinity before then we can, all three of us, me, the other person, and then connecting to divinity, to understand that and moving energy correctly, if that makes sense, to summarize it briefly.
sounds so good. And I think that we can go deeper in all these areas of what divinity means. Talking about devotional life and Tantra, the key element in spiritual life is like, can you describe devotional life and how that looks for somebody practicing Tantra?
Hmm. Yes. So I think it probably depends upon what their life looks like, whether they're living in out in the world, or if they're living in a cave in India. But for those, the world, um, it's what we can fit into our daily life. Bless you, whether we can wake up in the morning or in the evening with practices, and then throughout the day, always like reconnecting, like you have on your mala beads. So that's a reminder for you, and that you can know you can take a break and do your chanting or your meditation. And then it's going to depend, if someone has children, how they work that in. My students with children, especially kids under 2 years old, it can be a lot harder to find the time and energy to have that practice. So we shouldn't beat ourselves up. We just have to put it on our calendar, like literally in our calendar, and then fit in at least a few minutes. The biggest thing was just having the mindset of living a devotional life.
Mm, yes, and the pure observation, for many years we talk about years, we talk about lineages, we talk about opportunity of growth. I feel like the whole life itself, when we look back through this great wisdom, is that it's always been happening. When we eat or when we're discovering something for the first time, it's all been a meditation. So the beauty of discovering, I feel, why I want to bring this topic out to people is there's a lot of suffering in the area of our sexuality. And I really, really loved how you stressed even through this solo practice in every part of that work that you did was holding space for where people were and how you communicated very well through that. That was why I reached out. I've been with a lot, like this is started when I was 15 years old. I'm now 46. I met a lot of really great people. And when I meet a really great teacher or somebody who can convey a message that holds space and I feel silence and I feel my own self mirroring in
Mhm.
there because I've been on this journey with Tantra since at least 2000, 1999, and then onwards. And,
Mhm.
there's been many, many areas and living in Canada and like the knowledge, and that's part of the ancient history of India and just being available to what was calling me through meditation, right? So having experiences with Lord Krishna, having experiences with Kam Sutra, opening up this knowledge. Wow, these chakras exist in my body. Wow, when I hold my posture like this happens. If I massage my genitalia in different ways, I experience flow or current through my nadis. This is a deep, beautiful science of self-realization and then overcoming these burdens of lack of knowledge. So presenting knowledge like you have and having community members that are going to see this podcast or anybody that this reaches is an opportunity to break down those barriers of shame, blame, um, religious beliefs, the mind, and really coming in just to your anatomy, coming into the flow current, coming into no mind, and like maybe healing blockages, right? So there's gratitude there. There's so much gratitude to your silence. Um, you know, in your own experience, how has your practice of Tantra shaped your sense of devotion? Has that affected your own personal devotion, like insights through your own self-discovery?
Sure, I lived more of a Buddhist type life before all of that. So I didn't really have, yeah, any kind of devotional or um, I believed more in the universe rather than a higher God presence. So that has since changed. And, and it's I will say there's some things that would be quite trendy, popular. Like I've learned how to manifest, like that connection to divinity will manifest things in my life. People will come. You and I, we're both wearing yellow t-shirts today, and just all these different things that align. Whereas before, I didn't see those, and I don't think they were happening either. So. Um, so yeah, like the trendiness of being able to manifest and and like feel within my spirit that I'm living the correct life. And and see less judgment. I think these stricter paths out there teach us to be judgmental, and maybe society does as well.
Mm.
And those new to Tantra or new to a more spiritual yoga can can be a little more judgmental in some of them, and that's saying like, okay, you can only have these sort of practices, or you can only have these sort of practices and you can't have all of them, or tantra should only be chanting. And if you're doing anything other than chanting, if you're doing anything with a partner, you're not practicing tantra, you're doing something else. um, and so just removing that sort of religious thought of judging others and them being doing it incorrectly. We have our own path. And what you were saying about healing and opening, it's created so much healing and always in a positive way for me. always what I can handle, and I'll utilize what I learned. And I've gotten bodily healing, whereas people who aren't on this path will instead jump to just trying plant medicine solely, and it becomes this cycle of always seeking out the plant medicine for healing instead of putting in physical or meditative work on occasion. So doing 50 ayahuasca ceremonies or doing MDA, ecstasy, that sort of thing repeatedly or on a daily basis to always feel that little bit of bliss when, as you know, with your business blissed out, we can start our day with these bliss practices. So there's options out there, and it's important to always look at what is true, authentic healing, and what are the messages I'm receiving, and am I actually using them correctly?
And holding space for where people are growing too, because I'm like in the area of psychedelics, I've been a part of spirit plant medicine
Mhm.
workshops that are held in Vancouver with the radio I've worked with here too. And I've sat in with many, many, many different varieties of masterminds that how, the spirit of mushrooms had talked to them or how the spirit of ayahuasca had called them. And then they worked intensely, and that's part of their life legacy, but they also refrain from overuse. And anybody that's ever been in these bigger workshops that have written books that are educated, that, it's very important. That's also another reason why I promote those type of events is like, if I'm going to promote yoga at the level I am, if I'm going to be promoting a safe journey with any of these spirits of nature, it comes back to the curiosity of the cat and, making sure that it doesn't kill you, and how can we preserve something pure, like raw and pure. So even in the morning, I was doing my videos on the sat kriyas or the sat karmas, and even the purging of water, like allowing our body with the five elements to see that beauty of flow and like even breath expand. But I think a big thing about psychedelics, and we can get into this too, and how it's been misused, is the reality of goal-minded, fast-paced life. And a lot of, even with our sexuality, with porn, the goal of coming and like the goal of a bigger penis and the goal of
Yeah.
all of this comparisons versus the journey of self-love and self-acceptance and seeing this miracle of ourselves. Right. So you can get into your also, like, I feel, because there's such a big topic there with the psychedelics, maybe, what's your
Yeah,
perspective?
I will add that I think my personal thought is for anyone that hasn't been able to heal through childhood trauma, um, physical uh, trauma I'm talking about, I can't really say, but abuse to children, that with psychedelics, it's the only thing that has I've seen to really break through, whereas just doing uh, work, intimate body work with a trained person has yet to fully heal that. It does assist with it, but there is a part that the psychedelics can push through and clear. Does that make sense
Yeah, well,
from
the
your
thing the thing
experience?
is the meridians of the brain, audience, the main thing that we know, even knowing that we got the right and left hemispheres of the brain, the Pingala and the Ida, and we're having all of this needing to expand and tap into the varieties of all that we are, one trigger of one memory, or even in the subconscious recording within that onion, there's a
Mhm.
lot that goes into knowing it's an observation, which I was so grateful to Osho's work 2007 when he came into my friend's body in front of me, and I'm just like looking, who's this old man trying to find me to help me heal through even the trauma I had been through in my first awakening in Hare Krishna in ISKCON. And it has
Mhm.
nothing to do with the gods, it has nothing to do with these divine energies, it has to do with the human karmas. And
Mhm.
so the beauty of pure observation that we got from Lord Buddha and the main teaching of witnessing is, how can we allow to hold space for people to get there and just to observe it as a life lesson and as a part of growth, and how it creates us as healers, because we're all here to learn about the good and bad. We're all here to make mistakes. We're here to have erasers. And, that's also another part of the duality. And even having that duality of life, the good and bad that's here, is like coming into compassion, that have we been perfect, all of us, and some of the dualities are pretty ugly. Yes, the war on crime, the war on rape, the war on children, the war on perversion. There's a lot, but that's why we're showing up with Tantra. Why Deborah's doing what she's doing, or I'm doing whatever we're doing, and we're showing up with yellow teachers, and we're like sinking into energy, is an opportunity to see this miraculous, bigger thing than us happening through us. And then presenting such a topic like the ancient wisdom. What is Tantra? It's a method to discover our true identity and to accept this gift of the body, working with the body, right? So, yes, psychedelics, I'm there with you, sister. Because the shift of the mind, whatever method we're using, if it's done properly with microdose, it's just where people can recognize the mind and have an opportunity to unleash the attachment to pain and suffering. So we do that anyways with breath work, and then with Tantra, we're going to go through, your course, and like some of the beautiful things about the breath work with accepting our body, how to look at our body even in a mirror, how to love our body, how to touch our body, how to flow with our body, and then the breath work on how to rise energy. So we can go now into like rising breath work, and some of the beautiful tips that you have in your course, and maybe some highlights on, what it is to rise your energy and how to feel that bliss.
I do think it's something that someone has to practice and feel it to comprehend it. So maybe someone's had that experience in a type of yoga they've done or an intense meditation. Most people haven't, however, but in these Tantra practices, there is an intensity, and sometimes it's so much that people get really afraid of the physical sensations of the energy moving. But yeah, I think it's something, as I say in the course, it's something people have to practice. And all aspects, like I teach people the 9 baits or the 9 Bs. So all the main 9 practices, and learn a little bit of each, and then see with the guidance of a teacher where they're going to go from there, whether they're going to do all the types of practices or mostly do a few in their daily practice.
I love it. And then
So that's what I would say. Find these. I have some YouTube videos, or you teach some classes there in Vancouver. There are a few good teachers around the world with centers or workshops to join. So actual online courses. But we're not going to get this from reading a book. Reading a book is for the philosophy.
Yes, and the practice that's available, and just allowing ourselves even to work with the education aspect of knowing the inner kingdom, because I really feel the beauty of exploring this knowledge. It will heighten understanding what's happening when we're exploring breath work or holding poses, how to be safe in them, how to work with trust, Like, okay, if we can show up and we've only met each other a couple of times and we're in a room right now doing a podcast and we're both wearing yellow, this is powerful. How do we just trust? How do we just fall into this trust? And that's really the invisible aspect of faith, and knowing and that we're preserving some great wisdom to help and serve the higher beauty of pure consciousness, where addiction, overeating, all the other things that we do to these bodies can find some remedy, some natural remedy. And that's where, yoga proves itself. And that's why I keep showing up to it, because once that light switch keeps going on, and you're like, aha, 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 aha.
Yes, I will add though, it also teaches us to be discerning. So not everything that shows up is for the good. Sometimes it's to teach us a lesson or to see that something's not right. So Sometimes we see these things like us both showing up in yellow could be a great thing. But then on another, two other people showing up in yellow could be instead kind of like a trick, or like it shouldn't be, it's not in alignment, or this person could be an energy vampire. It's like when we were dating, when we were like 19 years old, and you might find one little hobby that you both have in line, like, I don't know, running or something really trivial, and then latch on, oh, like, oh, you like running, oh, you've been to, I don't know, Costa Rica, and then that a friendship or romantic relationship forms from that. But it's important when we see things um, that seem like we manifest or attract, or that we're just in alignment with this person, it's not always for the highest good. So I do like to put that out there so that people always, it's not always for the good.
I love this. And so sensing that, so we can talk about that too, because recently, like, I met a lot of yogis and I've met a lot of tantrics, and there's a lot of black magic. And
A
so,
lot of black magic, and a lot of also people that use it to draw others into cults and drain them financially or energetically.
yes, and so how to have that beautiful discoveries, how to empower one to own their power, to own their inner Shiva Shakti, meaning that nice current of flow, the Pingala and Ida, their Kundalini, their wonderful aspect is self-discovery, but to trust in their highest development of that enlightenment aspect. So yes, sister, I'm with you on this, because I've had, like, in the last 5 years, I've had exposure to at least five different gifts
Mhm.
of that same black magic. And in it, what I recognize is a cultural repression of lack of education, different systems, survival, and it really drew on compassion for me. Because even in that, when I was in that, there was times where I was led into deeper states. Now, one thing, when we talk about black magic and when we talk about negativity, it's all there for good. Most important that we understand good and bad is only for good. What we need to see in the education of it is what we master of that lesson, of what we
Yeah.
needed to learn, right? How we became a better master. Because I've learned through the non-duality is like I appear, I show up, but most important, I continue to master myself. And if I lose myself in anything, and I lose myself because I have no control over it, okay, the losing and the dissolving will give me some type of surrender, some type of new understanding. But the highest good of us is finding ourselves, finding that beauty, expanding in our beauty. So when we lose ourselves, we have to have that warning. Is there a red flag here? And not missing those red flags, understanding the green flags, and continuing to expand with these great energies of the Shiva Shakti. Because yes, the duality is there, but then that's also another training. And then the compassion is like that really turns on the healer inside of us, because we have methods that work, and we see those people actually that need to grow actually needed us to grow also, because there's always two sides to a story. And then an opportunity to thank karma, because karma is enacting all the time. So I love that you drew that in through, yes, the good and bad. There's like a left and right in Tantra, friends. And there's a lot of different perspectives of the darker and the light. And just trusting yourself to know how to be playful with your understanding of your own self and not harm yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. So investigating beforehand if we can, in the moment, taking breaks to connect to ourself and how we feel, or step out of the room. And then also after the interaction with someone, noticing how we feel after.
Yes. Beautiful tips. I think
So
this,
especially for choosing like Tantra schools, retreat centers to go to, yoga retreat centers, investigating heavily beforehand,
so beautiful.
looking for stories of using our own energy and how we feel there, of whether we want to stay.
So I think that that could be, just before we get through this this podcast, I think why not draw in how to tap into oneself as a gift and a tool from you prior to stepping into any environment. So what would you do?
Before stepping in, I would get clear myself. I'm not going to be scrolling on social media or distracted on my phone. Have that put away for a while beforehand because that disconnects us from ourselves. So before, take a deep breath, nice full body breath, feel that place that is me, and then be rooted and connected to the earth if I can think about it, but mostly connected into myself and then connected to higher power, divinity as well. And walk into the room, we'll say, anchored in to my own self and notice what kind of feeling I have.
Mm, so good. So friends,
And
that's a
taking,
method.
well,
I just,
I have to take breaths. And if I feel myself,
mhm.
restricted in my chest, then I know that if I feel like I can't take some deeper, purposeful breaths, then there's probably an issue around me. So that's a couple of my techniques. What about you? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I feel the same thing in grounding. I feel the sixth sense of even the awareness of our inner self first as we're in that moment is just being very aware of the first second of interaction with anything. Because that
Yeah.
the first second of interaction, once I have my first second, my purity comes into an atmosphere, the bubble of my whole being will bounce and it will tell me yes or no. And the thing that I've learned from this is making sure I listen to that first.
Listen. Yes, I was just talking with a researcher of cults yesterday about this. And it also goes along with narcissists, which you typically leads a cult. But uh, so if anyone's familiar with being around narcissists, which most of us empaths, happy people are, then they that instant initial meeting before you even start talking to them, there's something there that's like a no. But then they start talking and they're so charming and charismatic, and especially if someone like myself likes that higher energy charisma, then we'll let that suck us in and ignore what our brain spirit told us beforehand. And we have to strongly remember that initial feeling, not let this energy vampire or narcissist, this expert on tricking people,
Mm,
change our mind.
so good. So good. Great words of wisdom. Friends that are watching, I think there's so much more to come with me and Deborah. We have wonderful alignments just in discovering each other. I hope to bring her out to Vancouver. I've got a lot of work to get through today and fine tuning all the work that I do, but it's so good to mirror a beautiful soul
Thank
and
you.
to have done your work and to have seen myself in your work because of how many things I've learned, but to have another person to mirror. And I want to thank you on behalf of the whole collective consciousness for your dedication to your path, to the dedication to your Dharma, and the harmony that you're creating, not only for yourself, but all the people that you interact with every day. So really thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yes. And thanks for showing up. So, and hearing me. And, I look forward, friends. I think this is just the beginning with me and Deborah. I think there's a lot to come. But stay tuned and please check out. We'll put a link to the Udemy course and her YouTube channel and discover the beauty of her essence and her love on this earth. And we'll see you soon. Namaste.